Ladies and gentlemen, in this world filled with noise, chaos, and distractions, one of the most profound choices we can make is to exercise the power of silence. The ability to not react, especially when provoked, speaks louder than any words could ever convey. It is a decision that separates those who are led by their emotions from those who master their emotions. In life, we often find ourselves in situations that test our emotions. We are provoked, criticized, or challenged in ways that stir within us the urge to react. The natural human tendency is to respond, to defend ourselves, to correct a misunderstanding, or to assert our stance. However, the most powerful response in these moments is not a reaction at all, but rather a choice of self-control. The true strength lies not in how quickly we react, but in how wisely we choose to respond, or at times not respond at all. The ability to master our reactions is a reflection of the deep inner power we carry. Reacting impulsively is often a sign of weakness, not strength. When we allow our emotions to control us, we become slaves to the situations and people around us. Our actions are dictated by the external forces at play, and we become mere participants in the chaos. Yet, when we practice self-control, we rise above these external forces. We are no longer moved by the winds of others' opinions, by the provocations of adversaries, or by the challenges life throws at us. Instead, we stand firm in our purpose, undisturbed and unwavering. Silence is a powerful expression of this self-control. It is not merely the absence of words, but a conscious decision to withhold from unnecessary engagement. In moments of tension, where words might escalate conflict or fuel misunderstandings, silence becomes an invaluable tool. The person who can remain silent in the face of provocation demonstrates immense inner strength. This is not silence born of fear or indifference, but one that comes from a place of wisdom. It is the silence of someone who understands that responding to every challenge is not required, nor is it always the best course of action. When we choose silence over reaction, we create space for clarity. We give ourselves the opportunity to pause, reflect, and make the best decision for ourselves, rather than being driven by the heat of the moment. It is in these moments of stillness that we realize the power we hold. We are no longer prisoners of our emotions, but masters of them. We become the calm in the storm, the steady force amidst the turbulence. Our peace becomes our greatest asset, and we begin to see that maintaining it is far more valuable than engaging in every trivial confrontation that comes our way. A person who has mastered the art of silence understands that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult or offense demands a response. In fact, many of the situations that we face in life, particularly those involving negativity or toxicity, do not deserve our energy. Instead of reacting impulsively, the wise person knows when to let go, when to cut ties with individuals who drain our energy, and when to withdraw from situations that threaten our peace. In these moments, we recognize that it is not the confrontation that is important, but the preservation of our own well-being. The idea of cutting them off silently is not about being dismissive or indifferent. It is about recognizing the importance of our energy and guarding it fiercely. Toxic people, draining conversations, and negative environments are distractions that keep us from focusing on what truly matters. The more we engage with such negativity, the more we allow ourselves to be drawn into their drama. But when we choose silence, we protect our peace, and in doing so, we protect our purpose. This idea of cutting off silently also speaks to the power of boundaries. When we establish clear boundaries in our lives, when we decide that certain behaviors, attitudes, or relationships are not acceptable, we give ourselves permission to choose silence as a way to honor those boundaries. It is often through our silence that we communicate our standards and our values most effectively. A person who does not respond to every slight or every attack does not need to explain themselves to others. Their actions silently walking away, withdrawing their attention, or simply choosing not to engage speak volumes about the boundaries they have set for themselves. There is also a profound truth in the notion that silence enables us to focus on what truly matters. Life is filled with distractions, people who want our attention, situations that pull us in different directions, and countless demands on our time. Yet, when we allow ourselves to be swept up in every external challenge, we lose sight of the most important thing, our purpose. We were not created to be constantly engaged in conflict, nor were we designed to be reactionary. We were created to focus, to build, and to create. By choosing silence over reaction, we free ourselves from the trivialities that would distract us from the significant work we are called to do. Sometimes the best way to let go of negativity is not through confrontation, but through silence. This act of silently cutting off toxic influences, of walking away from those who seek to drag us into their emotional turmoil, is an expression of self-love. It is the decision to protect our mental and emotional state, to guard our energy, and to protect our peace. In this way, we reclaim our power. The strength to cut people off silently does not come from a place of bitterness or anger, but from a deep place of respect for ourselves, our time, and our purpose. When we choose silence, we are making a statement. We are not governed by others' actions or words. We choose peace, we choose growth, and we choose to protect the space within which we can thrive. This is the true measure of strength. It is not in what we say, but in how we choose to respond, or in many cases, how we choose not to respond. By mastering our reactions, we demonstrate the most powerful form of self-control. Silence holds incredible power in moments of conflict and tension. In a world that is increasingly quick to react and engage in noisy exchanges, choosing silence can be a profound statement. It is not simply the absence of sound, but a conscious, deliberate act that signals your refusal to be swept away by the emotional currents of the moment. In conflict, silence is not a sign of weakness, it is a tool of wisdom and self-control. It is a signal to those around you that you are not governed by their emotions, nor are you controlled by the situations they seek to impose upon you. Instead, silence places you in a position of strength, above the fray and detached from the drama. When conflict arises, there is often a temptation to engage, to speak our minds, to defend ourselves, or to correct a misunderstanding. It feels natural to want to explain our side, to make our voices heard, especially when we feel wronged or unjustly criticized. Yet, responding in this manner can escalate the situation, turning a small disagreement into a larger confrontation. Words once spoken can't be unsaid, and the damage they cause may linger far beyond the moment. Silence, on the other hand, can act as a cushion, absorbing the tension and allowing both parties to step back, reflect, and reassess. In this space, the energy of the conflict begins to dissipate, and the opportunity for understanding grows. Choosing silence in the midst of conflict is also an indication of emotional maturity. It requires a high level of self-awareness and discipline to not react impulsively to a provocation. When we are silent, we demonstrate that we are not prisoners of the situation. Our inner peace is not for sale, and our state of mind is not subject to the whims of others. We are in control of our emotional responses, and we choose not to be drawn into unnecessary conflict. This is an act of strength, not of weakness. Moreover, silence in the midst of conflict provides clarity. Often, when emotions are high, our judgment becomes clouded, and we are unable to see the situation for what it truly is. Our reactions are based on feelings rather than reason, and we may find ourselves saying things we do not mean or engaging in behaviors we later regret. Silence, however, allows us to detach from the emotions of the moment and think clearly. It provides space for reflection, for understanding, and for strategic decision-making. It is in these quiet moments that we can determine the best course of action, whether that involves engaging, setting a boundary, or simply walking away. In relationships, silence can serve as a powerful means of communication. Sometimes words are not necessary to convey a message. A simple, well-timed pause can send a stronger signal than any verbal response could. When we choose silence instead of responding to an emotional outburst or a hostile remark, we communicate that we are not interested in contributing to the negativity. We signal that we are not willing to participate in behavior that does not align with our values. This in itself is a statement of respect for both ourselves and the other person. We respect ourselves enough to maintain our peace, and we respect the other person enough to not engage in a power struggle or escalation. Additionally, silence forces others to confront their own actions. When we do not react, when we do not engage in the back and forth of conflict, those around us are often forced to reflect on their own behavior. They may begin to question why they are trying to provoke a response or why they are engaging in a conflict that is not being met with resistance. Silence in this way becomes a mirror, reflecting the true nature of the situation and offering the other person the opportunity to reconsider their approach. In the realm of leadership, silence can be an incredibly effective tool for guiding others. A leader who responds to every challenge with words may find themselves overwhelmed by the noise of constant demands. But a leader who knows when to be silent, who understands the power of quiet reflection, commands respect and presence. Silence in leadership does not mean indecision, it means thoughtful deliberation and the ability to assess the situation with clarity. It shows that a leader is not governed by the urgency of the moment, but is instead focused on long-term solutions and the greater vision. Silence, when wielded effectively, can de-escalate a situation and lead to greater understanding. It allows both parties to step back, to breathe, and to reflect before reacting. It provides the emotional distance needed to avoid saying or doing things that we might regret later. Silence holds the power to break the cycle of conflict and create the space necessary for resolution. It is in these moments that wisdom speaks louder than words. So while the world around us often calls for immediate reactions and constant noise, remember that silence is a choice. It is a conscious decision to remain above the situation, to govern your own emotions, and to preserve your peace. When we choose silence, we are choosing to rise above the noise, to respond with wisdom rather than impulse, and to demonstrate the strength that comes from emotional self-mastery. Silence is not simply a passive state, it is an active and powerful choice that speaks volumes without uttering a single word. Preserving peace is one of the most important actions we can take in our daily lives, yet it is often the most difficult. In a world filled with constant distractions, demands, and challenges, maintaining a sense of inner peace is an act of intentionality and discipline. Reacting emotionally in the heat of the moment may seem like the natural thing to do, but more often than not, it only serves to fuel negativity and escalate a situation. Every reaction, especially an emotional one, adds to the energy of conflict and draws us further away from the peace we so desperately need. In contrast, choosing not to react and instead cutting off toxic individuals or situations without a word helps us to preserve and protect the peace within ourselves. When we find ourselves in the midst of emotional turmoil or conflict, our first instinct may be to respond often defensively. This reaction is driven by a desire to correct the situation or defend our position. However, when we react in this way, we give up control. We allow our emotions to dictate our actions, and in doing so, we lose the very peace we are trying to protect. The moment we engage in an emotional reaction, we are no longer in a state of balance, we become entangled in the conflict. The energy of negativity that surrounds us only grows, pulling us further away from the calm that we need to navigate life effectively. The truth is, in these moments, silence is a form of control. It is a conscious decision to withhold from reacting, allowing us to step away from the emotional charge of the situation. When we resist the urge to react, we create space for peace to remain undisturbed. Silence allows us to remain grounded, rooted in our sense of self, and not pulled into the chaos of the moment. It is a reflection of our emotional maturity and our understanding that peace must be preserved at all costs. Cutting off toxic individuals or situations without a word may seem drastic to some, but it is often the most peaceful response. Toxic people, those who constantly bring negativity, drama, or conflict into our lives, drain our energy. They demand our attention, whether by provoking us or by seeking to control the narrative. Engaging with them, even if we feel we are defending ourselves, often results in more stress, more frustration, and less peace. The more we allow these individuals into our lives, the more they chip away at our inner calm. By choosing to silently cut ties with toxic individuals, we take back control of our emotional energy. We are not required to engage in a long-winded explanation or a confrontation. Sometimes, the most dignified and effective response is to quietly withdraw our attention, to step back from the situation, and to let the relationship fade without drama. This does not mean we are running away from conflict, but rather that we are choosing peace over the turmoil that would otherwise ensue. In this sense, preserving peace is about setting boundaries. We must learn to recognize the situations and individuals that threaten our peace and have the courage to disengage. This is not an act of rejection, but an act of self-preservation. When we allow ourselves to be repeatedly drawn into toxic dynamics, we lose sight of our goals, our purpose, and our sense of inner calm. By choosing to cut off toxic situations or individuals without reacting, we protect the sanctuary of peace within ourselves, ensuring that nothing disturbs our mental and emotional equilibrium. Furthermore, preserving peace is not just about protecting ourselves from others, but also from our own inner turmoil. Often the greatest conflicts we face are not with the outside world, but within ourselves. The thoughts we entertain, the fears we feed, and the emotions we cling to can create a storm in our hearts. In these moments, silence and stillness are essential. Choosing not to react to every thought or emotion that arises within us allows us to maintain inner peace. By learning to detach from our emotional responses, we give ourselves the space to simply be, without judgment or turmoil. Choosing peace requires practice. It requires us to develop the skill of emotional self-regulation and the wisdom to recognize when we are being pulled into negativity. It requires us to be intentional about the energy we allow into our lives and the people we engage with. And it requires us to have the courage to preserve our peace, even when it means walking away without a word. In life, we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. We cannot always prevent conflict from arising, but we can choose how we engage with it. Reacting emotionally may give us a temporary sense of satisfaction or validation, but it rarely leads to resolution or peace. Choosing silence, walking away from toxic individuals or situations, and refusing to allow negativity to control our emotional state, these are the true paths to preserving peace. When we choose peace, we create a foundation upon which we can build, grow, and flourish. Our energy is no longer diverted into pointless conflicts, and our focus is no longer clouded by drama. Instead, we can devote our energy to the things that truly matter: our purpose, our relationships, and our personal growth. Preserving peace is not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with clarity, calm, and the unshakable confidence that our peace is our most valuable asset. By cutting off toxicity silently, we demonstrate that our peace is not negotiable, and that we have the strength and wisdom to maintain it no matter the external circumstances. This is the true power of preserving peace. Setting boundaries is one of the most essential practices for maintaining healthy relationships and personal well-being. Boundaries are not just about setting limits on how others treat us, but also about defining how we treat ourselves. They are the lines we draw to protect our time, energy, emotions, and mental peace. When we fail to set boundaries, we allow others to dictate the terms of our lives, to take advantage of our goodwill, or to overwhelm us with their demands. In contrast, when we establish clear boundaries, we affirm our own value, we respect ourselves, and we create a space in which our peace and purpose can thrive. Boundaries are vital because they allow us to cultivate self-respect. The act of setting boundaries is, in essence, a statement to ourselves that we are worthy of respect, that our time and energy are precious, and that we will not allow anyone to trample on our personal needs or values. Boundaries are not meant to shut people out, but to create an environment where mutual respect can flourish. They protect us from emotional exhaustion, stress, and manipulation. In setting healthy boundaries, we communicate that we are in control of our own lives and that we have the right to determine how we engage with others. One of the key aspects of setting boundaries is recognizing when those boundaries have been crossed. Unfortunately, Many people, intentionally or unintentionally, will test or violate our boundaries. They may push our limits, disregard our needs, or attempt to manipulate us into engaging in ways that drain our energy. It is in these moments, when someone crosses a boundary, that silence becomes one of the most dignified responses we can make. Silence, when someone crosses a boundary, is not a passive retreat or an act of avoidance. It is a powerful response. When we are silent, we signal that we will not engage with behavior that does not honor our boundaries. Silence tells the other person that their actions are unacceptable and that we are not willing to tolerate any behavior that disrespects our limits. It is a clear and dignified way to communicate that we expect better treatment and that we will not compromise our peace or our values for the sake of confrontation or appeasement. The beauty of using silence in these situations is that it does not escalate the conflict. Many times when we speak in anger or frustration, we can escalate a situation, intensifying the emotional charge and potentially leading to a confrontation that is both unnecessary and draining. By choosing silence, we maintain control over the situation. We avoid getting swept up in the emotions of the moment, and we preserve the power we hold over our personal space and energy. Silence in this context is not weakness, it is strength, wisdom, and emotional maturity. It shows that we are in command of our emotional state and that we will not be manipulated or drawn into unnecessary drama. Furthermore, silence in response to boundary violations gives the other person the space to reflect on their behavior. When we refuse to react emotionally, we create an opportunity for them to consider the consequences of their actions. It's often in the quiet moments when no words are exchanged that people begin to understand the gravity of their misstep. Silence forces them to look inward and ask themselves why they acted the way they did, and whether it was in line with the respect they should have for us. Setting boundaries also requires us to be willing to enforce them, even if it means creating some distance or space from individuals who do not respect them. This does not mean cutting people off without cause, but it does mean that we are not afraid to take action to preserve our peace. Sometimes the most effective way to protect ourselves is to step away, withdraw our attention, and refrain from engaging further. This action speaks louder than any verbal explanation could. It is a silent declaration that we are not willing to engage in dynamics that compromise our boundaries. In some cases, people may not even be aware that they are crossing our boundaries. The need for clear communication becomes evident here. While silence is often the dignified response, it is important to remember that there are moments when we must clearly communicate our limits. Setting boundaries effectively means expressing ourselves clearly and confidently, letting others know what we are willing to tolerate and what we are not. This creates an environment where respect is mutual and where everyone understands the expectations in the relationship. However, there are situations where speaking up is not necessary because silence alone can serve as a powerful boundary-setting tool. When we choose not to react, when we choose to withhold our energy and attention from a situation that is not respectful, we reinforce the message that our peace is non-negotiable. Ultimately, setting boundaries is about self-respect and self-preservation. It is about recognizing our worth and ensuring that we are not taken for granted. It is about standing firm in our values, our time, and our emotional well-being. Silence, when used effectively in response to boundary violations, becomes a clear statement of our commitment to protecting our peace and maintaining the integrity of our relationships. It allows us to disengage from toxicity, to avoid unnecessary conflict, and to preserve our mental and emotional energy for the things and people that truly matter. In the end, setting and respecting boundaries is a reflection of our understanding that we are in charge of our lives. We have the power to determine what we will tolerate and what we will not. Silence in these moments is not a sign of surrender, but of strength to preserve our peace, to stand firm in our values, and to refuse to be swept away by the demands of others. By honoring our boundaries and using silence as a tool to protect them, we create a life that is in alignment with our true selves and our deepest values. Life is incredibly precious and time is one of our most valuable resources. Every day we are given a limited number of hours to live, create, and grow. Yet, Far too often we allow ourselves to be sidetracked by drama, by the negativity of others, by conflicts that don't truly matter, and by distractions that pull us away from our purpose. The reality is that life is too short to waste on these trivialities. Our energy should be focused on fulfilling our purpose, not on engaging in the emotional turmoil and drama that others may try to drag us into. When we prioritize purpose over drama, we take control of our lives and steer them toward fulfillment, growth, and peace. Drama, in all its forms, is a thief of time and energy. It often comes in the form of petty conflicts, misunderstandings, or people who constantly seek to provoke or stir up trouble. These situations demand our attention, but they do not add value to our lives. In fact, drama often leads us into a downward spiral, where our focus is clouded by the noise and chaos around us. We become preoccupied with defending ourselves, justifying our actions, or engaging in endless back-and-forth arguments. This not only drains our emotional reserves, but also distracts us from the work we were meant to do in the world. The purpose, on the other hand, is our true north. It is the reason we wake up each day, the vision that guides our actions, and the goal that gives us direction. When we focus on purpose, we align ourselves with the deeper meaning of our lives. We understand that our time here is limited, and that every moment should be spent on what truly matters. Purpose pulls us out of the small, petty concerns of everyday drama and places us in the realm of the big picture, the vision of what we are meant to contribute to the world. It helps us discern what is worth our energy and what is simply a distraction. To focus on purpose requires clarity. It means understanding what we are here to accomplish and being unapologetically committed to that mission. When we know our purpose, we naturally begin to filter out the noise. Drama becomes less appealing because we recognize that engaging in it serves no higher purpose. We don't have time to invest in conflicts that don't align with our goals, nor do we have the energy to entertain negativity that detracts from our growth. Instead, our energy is directed toward the things that propel us forward, our passions, our work, our relationships, and our personal development. The temptation to get involved in drama is strong, especially when it comes from people we care about or situations that seem urgent in the moment. But when we make the conscious decision to ignore drama, we protect our peace and preserve our emotional energy. Engaging in every argument or reacting to every challenge only serves to pull us away from our purpose. It wastes our time, disrupts our peace, and leaves us feeling emotionally drained. Instead of reacting to drama, we can choose to focus on what matters, to invest our energy in the work that aligns with our true goals, and to preserve our peace by refusing to be drawn into negativity. The purpose also helps us maintain perspective. When we are clear about our mission, we can see drama for what it truly is, an illusion that distracts us from our calling. The more we focus on fulfilling our purpose, the less drama has the power to affect us. We begin to recognize that most of what seems urgent or dramatic in the moment is inconsequential in the grand scheme of our lives. These distractions are temporary, while our purpose is enduring. When we hold firm to this perspective, we naturally become less reactive to the trivialities of life. Focusing on purpose also brings us closer to fulfillment. It gives us a sense of meaning that transcends the fleeting satisfaction we might get from winning an argument or resolving a conflict. Drama can provide temporary relief, but it never brings lasting peace or happiness. It may create momentary excitement or provide a sense of validation, but it is ultimately unfulfilling. Purpose, on the other hand, is a constant source of fulfillment. When we invest our energy in the things that truly matter, we feel more alive, more engaged, and more at peace with ourselves. The sense of purpose infuses our lives with meaning and drives us towards success and happiness. One of the most powerful ways to stay focused on purpose is by setting clear boundaries around what we allow into our lives. If we are constantly surrounded by negativity or individuals who thrive on drama, it becomes more difficult to stay focused on what really matters. But by making deliberate choices about where to spend our time and with whom to engage, we can protect ourselves from unnecessary distractions. We can choose to spend our energy with people who support our growth, with those who encourage us to pursue our dreams, and with those who align with our values. This makes it easier to stay focused on our purpose and ensures that we are surrounded by positivity that fuels our journey rather than draining it. Ultimately, the decision to focus on purpose rather than drama is an empowering one. It requires discipline, clarity, and a deep commitment to what truly matters in life. When we choose purpose, we rise above the distractions, the petty conflicts, and the negativity that would otherwise consume us. We begin to see that life is not about reacting to every provocation or getting entangled in every drama. It is about moving forward with intention, aligning our actions with our deepest values, and making a positive impact in the world. Drama will always be present in life, but it does not need to dictate our time or our energy. When we focus on purpose, we reclaim our power and invest in the future we are meant to create. Letting go of toxic relationships is one of the most difficult yet liberating actions we can take in our lives. Toxic relationships, whether they are romantic, familial, or friendships, can be emotionally draining, exhausting, and sometimes even destructive. These are the relationships that constantly take more than they give, leaving us feeling depleted, unappreciated, and sometimes even questioning our worth. In many cases, we hold on to these relationships out of obligation, fear of confrontation, or a misguided sense of loyalty. But the truth is, staying in toxic relationships only robs us of our peace, our energy, and our potential. Sometimes the most graceful and powerful thing we can do is to let go, disengage, and move on. Disengaging from toxic individuals or situations requires great courage and self-awareness. It's easy to stay in a relationship that feels familiar, even if it's hurting us. We may tell ourselves that things will get better, or that we can change the other person. But often these are just illusions we create to avoid facing the difficult truth. The reality is, people who are toxic will rarely change unless they are willing to do the work on themselves. And even then, it is not our responsibility to fix them. Our primary responsibility is to ourselves to protect our peace, our mental health, and our emotional well-being. Graceful disengagement doesn't mean that we have to engage in a dramatic confrontation or express anger and resentment. In fact, sometimes the best way to protect our peace is by choosing silence. This doesn't mean we are being passive or avoiding the issue. Instead, silence becomes a powerful tool of disengagement. It allows us to remove ourselves from a situation without further escalating it or causing more harm. By choosing not to engage in arguments or power struggles, we protect our inner peace and avoid getting pulled back into the toxicity that seeks to drain us. The key to graceful disengagement is understanding that we are not responsible for how others react. When we choose to move on from a toxic relationship, we may face guilt, accusations, or attempts to guilt trip us into staying. However, we must remember that our peace is non-negotiable and we are not obligated to sacrifice our happiness or well-being for anyone. Letting go is an act of self-love and self-respect. It is a decision to no longer allow someone else's behavior or negativity to define our experience. One of the most challenging aspects of letting go of toxic relationships is the emotional attachment we often develop over time. Even if a relationship is harmful, we may have invested years of time, energy, and love into it, which can make the process of letting go feel like a loss. However, we must remind ourselves that continuing to invest in a relationship that is not reciprocal or healthy is actually the real loss. Staying in a toxic relationship keeps us stuck in a cycle of hurt and prevents us from moving forward and creating space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. When we decide to disengage, it's important to do so with clarity and firmness. This might mean setting boundaries or simply choosing to withdraw emotionally and physically from the relationship. In some cases, it may mean ending the relationship entirely. This does not have to be a dramatic farewell or a public declaration. Sometimes the most effective way to disengage is to simply stop participating. We stop answering the calls, we stop responding to messages, and we stop engaging in the emotional tug-of-war that has kept us entangled for so long. By choosing to step away silently, we are sending a clear message that we will no longer tolerate behavior that harms us. The act of letting go is also an opportunity to reclaim our energy. Toxic relationships are like emotional parasites. They drain us, leaving us with little to give to ourselves or others. By stepping away from these relationships, we free up the emotional and mental space needed to focus on our own growth, our own healing, and our own peace. We allow ourselves the time and energy to nurture the relationships that uplift us, the goals that inspire us, and the purpose that drives us. It's also important to recognize that letting go is not about holding on to resentment or bitterness. The process of disengagement is not about getting revenge or punishing someone for their actions. It's about freeing ourselves from the emotional grip of negativity and making space for positive change. We let go of the toxic relationship not because we hate the other person, but because we love ourselves enough to walk away from what no longer serves us. Silence and disengagement allow us to move forward without carrying the weight of past hurts or grudges. The decision to let go of toxic relationships also empowers us to set a higher standard for the relationships we invite into our lives. Once we begin to prioritize our peace, we become more discerning about the energy we allow into our space. We start to seek out relationships that are positive, nurturing, and reciprocal. We understand that we deserve people who respect us, support us, and contribute to our growth, not people who drain us or bring chaos into our lives. By gracefully disengaging from toxic individuals, we are creating the space for more loving, respectful, and fulfilling connections to enter our lives. Ultimately, letting go of toxic relationships is an act of reclaiming our personal power. It is a statement that we are no longer willing to settle for anything less than what aligns with our values and our purpose. It is a courageous choice to prioritize our well-being over comfort, to step away from what holds us back, and to move toward what empowers us. Sometimes the most dignified and effective way to protect our peace is to simply choose silence and move on. In doing so, we create a life that is free from the negativity that once weighed us down and open to the possibilities of healthier, more positive relationships. In conclusion, my friends, let us remember that peace is not a passive state, nor is it a gift we passively receive. It is a deliberate choice we make every single day. The power to protect your peace lies within you. It is the strength to control your reactions, to disengage from negativity, and to rise above the drama that seeks to disrupt your purpose. When you choose silence over reaction, you are not surrendering, you are asserting your sovereignty. You are declaring that your peace is too valuable to be compromised, your time too precious to be wasted, and your purpose too great to be derailed. Never forget that your energy is a resource meant to fulfill your divine purpose. You are here for a reason, and your destiny is far too significant to be distracted by the noise of the world. Surround yourself with people, places, and circumstances that nourish your soul and align with your calling. Let go of toxic relationships, not out of bitterness, but out of love for yourself and the mission you are called to fulfill. When you let go, you make room for new opportunities, for greater relationships, and for the divine alignment that will elevate you to your highest potential. So I challenge you today, protect your peace. Guard it with the wisdom of knowing when to speak and when to be silent. Disengage from the negativity that seeks to drain you and set your heart, your mind, and your spirit on the course of your purpose. Your silence is not weakness, it is your strength. It is the most powerful statement you can make in a world that thrives on chaos and confusion. Choose to live above it. Choose peace. And in doing so, you will find yourself walking in the fullness of your divine purpose, fulfilling the destiny for which you were created. Keep moving forward, for the best is yet to come.